Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to URU the Complete Collection. Let's continue. Now, I went down a rabbit hole and I read what was supposed to be the Cliff's Notes version of the entire story of the Myst universe. And it literally goes back at least to 5000 BC and pretty much is only a few keynotes away from the creation of an entire multiverse. Apparently, every age is its own separate thing, even if there is an age that looks like a different age at a different time. Those are apparently just kind of like alternate realities. They don't really connect to each other, uh, which is weird in this area we are in right now, where we have a machine. I think that's not much of a spoiler to say, that is simulating the idea that there's time travel that is happening here, and it really isn't. And we need to get through this door, so we'll just stare at this. Now, I could certainly go back and look at the pictures that I took a while ago, obviously. And see if these pictures in some specific order might tell me the order of the combination. Probably does. More than likely, it does. If that is true, then the first button is this, but I don't want to risk it, so I am just going to look at the walkthrough. There definitely is a problem with these combination locks, in the fact that they're just a little too daunting and they don't kind of checkpoint your progress. So the two times we've seen them, they've kind of sucked. So I want to just kind of quickly cover ages are universes. Deny is Earth, but the city of Deny, as it seems like we've been in, is actually in a great cavern under Nevada. They had 3 or 4 giant excavators digging up to circulate air to make it breathable. A few Earthlings, humans, I suppose, either were on Earth when Earth was created, and it was created like all the other ages, which are just universes, I guess. And so, like, Earth was created. If you can hear that, that's a very weird, like, car starting sound that I'm fairly certain is in the game. I'll turn off the music, and if I hear it again, then apparently somebody is trying to start a car outside my house, which would be weird because it is about 3 in the morning. So, yeah, ages are universes. Earth was created using a descriptive book. There's 2 types of books. There's descriptive books that create an age, and there can only be one of those. And then there are linking books that are kind of references back to the descriptive books, kind of like shortcuts in Windows or symlinks in Linux, if anybody knows Linux. There can be multiple linking books, but you can't use a linking book inside of the same universe age that there is that it is created in. And it seems like pretty much when you create the linking book, that is where you will appear. So in Myst 1, I think I misspoke at one point and said that you started on the dock when you touch the linking book. Actually, you start in the library in most cases. So, as my understanding is now, and it is just a jumbled mess. Let me say the Myst universe and mythos is way worse than every combination of apocryphal fan fiction of Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings or anything like that. I would say the Chronicles of Narnia is kind of pretty bad about that amongst all of those books. Just a lot of stuff there. A lot of repeated stuff, too. They name kings, and then 300 or 400 years later, there will be another king that has just slightly a different name, and it feels like it's just some mistranslation that happened. Going through so many years, it seems like the citizens of Deny live to be at least 250 years old, or can live to at least be 250 years old, so they're really, really old. But again, that might be in Deny years and not Earth years. Because why would time be built around the rotation of the sun when the Deny people didn't even see the sun? To make a descriptive book, you have to know a thing called the arts, and you have to have magic ink that apparently comes from some kind of scarab. This is just slightly referenced. You can't write an age that has contradictions in it, which is very, very ironic. Because if you write contradictions into an age, you get an age like Riven that slowly it becomes unstable and dissolves. The general idea, then, from that knowledge is that some human, the stranger as it's referred to apparently, that shows up in Myst 1, he probably was just some random human on Earth, on the surface of Earth. And Earth became unstable as an age, and a star fissure, a big space field, opened up under him, and he fell into it. And that somehow ended up with him landing on Myst Island. At least that's what you kind of have to take from it. Although it is possible, at least in one instance that I saw, for people to create entire ages that also have people on them and control those people. So somebody made an age to create a warrior race to overthrow the current king of Deny. In response, the current king of Deny seemingly created a plague by writing an age. There also seems to be an incredibly high expense and cost to going to different ages, and only the highest and the most upper class people were allowed for a long time, and it was still very expensive, and a lot of people wanted their own private ages. It seems kind of weird to have a scarcity society in a society like Deny, where they have special equipment that makes most buildings just straight out of stone, called extrusion devices. That technology just got better and better, apparently, as the years went by. And all of this happened like way, way before the events of any of the games. It's really, really a mushy mess of a story, and it didn't need to be told that way. It seems like the writers of Myst, either particularly in URU or in the entirety of the Myst series as it just went further and further, just really loved dropping these little hints, these little teasers to things without really fleshing it out, when it would have been a lot easier to stick with the idea that, yeah, they potentially live forever, the kings do. There's only been like 5 kings that are worth mentioning. You can skip thousands of years. It doesn't matter. You don't have to tell all the backstory. This is probably the problem with them being Myst books. And it definitely feels like Myst is a game for bibliophiles more than it is even a game for puzzle fans and video game fans by modern standards. And I think it just keeps going as we look at the further Myst games. It just goes deeper and deeper and deeper in that direction. So yeah, there's just a ton of craziness and a ton of what seem like contradictions or just unnecessary data at the least, even if I can't pinpoint a specific contradiction. And the main point, I guess, to take from it is in the first game, Atrus, who is not to be confused with his grandfather Ae'gura, just Atrus with an I after the A. He was writing in the denied descriptive book to keep it stable, which means he was writing in the Earth descriptive book to keep it stable. It's really, really questionable why there aren't more linking books to other parts of Earth, other than the fact that there is just this constant theme in their history of them being isolationist and not trusting outsiders. And all of this story didn't even really cover the last game, the End of Ages, when the Borrow and the Lesser get introduced. So the story goes off the rail if you just play the game, but if you read the backstories in the books and everything, the stories goes way off the rails also. So if I was going to remake the Myst series, which it probably badly needs that, it needs to take the puzzles that are good, switch them around so that the solutions are different and that they randomize, and so that there just can't be walkthroughs that tell you all the solutions, and just kind of switch around and merge all 5 of the games so that it's a more story-based thing. The thing that I like about Myst is the story of Atrus and his sons, and it can go to the daughter and wrap up with the daughter, and it can go back to the father/father-in-law. That's fine. Yeah, half of the references to Catherine, by the way, in the Cliff Notes that I read, seemed to spell her name with a K, and then half the time it seemed to spell her name with a C. So unless he married a Catherine with a C, and she died, and then he married a Catherine with a K. But yeah, that was just a ton of that, where it's like, this guy became king, this guy was born, this guy became king again, this guy was born. There is one slight interesting thing worth mentioning. There was a Watcher character, and when we started this DLC, that was the Watcher's chamber. Apparently he sees the future, maybe he's immortal, and he was apparently born as someone was linking to a new world, which linking to a world feels pretty instantaneous, so that would be kind of weird, but whatever. They were trying to do something there. Religious-wise, there were several religions, but none of them of real merit. They're just little sects of religions, and there were many, many times when people would either stamp out and arrest a lot of the sects, or the sects would just kind of fizzle out on their own. It seems like in the Myst universe, the main religion is the arts and the rules of creating these ages, and that makes a lot of sense. If you had something this magical and this powerful that you could aspire to, even if you had to go through a special college and be elite to have the power to create ages, that would be a major focus. I think it wouldn't just become a mundane, humdrum thing to be able to jump to whole new realities. There is disagreement, and it's never really solved, that when you write a descriptive book, you're not actually creating that alternate universe, and that all the universes already existed. It seems like a lot of descriptive books don't link to places where you can actually survive, so people would write descriptive books and then teleport there and then immediately die, and I guess at that point they would destroy the descriptive books. It seems like in URU in particular, there is no descriptive book shown at all. Like, not a single one. They seem to all be linking books, and it seems like most descriptive books in general in the Myst series are usually kept under lock and key and protected for good reason. because there can only be one. Also, the URU Online had the ability to use the key to place your own waypoints, and that was going to be the main gameplay mechanic for URU Online. It never really got implemented, and you could also apparently voice chat, so it makes sense why the key here has kind of a like mute button. So I bet this, when you clicked it, would be like a push to talk button. So yeah, I definitely spent about an hour going through all of that, and I definitely skipped a lot. There's some craziness. A recent survey said that most authors actually, almost like schizophrenics, hear the voices of their characters. I feel like the Miller brothers probably both kind of heard the voices of Atrus and worked on these stories, even when they weren't working on the stories. And they really suffer from having the lack of an editor or a director just to say, okay, you want to implement the concept of having a greedy king. You've listed that we want to have a library here that names 100 kings. Let's get it down from 100 kings down to 1 king. Let's combine all the characteristics of potentially greedy kings that don't matter into one greedy king and make his story a lot more fleshed out. And you even see that in this game. When you find a notebook talking about a king, it really is only 3 pages. It could be 10 or 12 pages. It's not going to affect people like me who aren't going to read any of it anyways, unless you're going to actually have somebody voice all that dialogue, which would have been really appreciated. But yeah, I definitely wouldn't suggest coming to Myst for the story. Like, you've got to come, in my opinion, to Myst because you like the game, and I know we're not playing the game right now, and I will fix that in a second. But I think you have to like that first game. I think you have to love it, and it probably wouldn't help if you played it fairly early in your life experience of playing games. Like, if it's the 1000th game you played, you probably won't be really satisfied with something like Real Myst. If it's within the first 200 to 300 games you play, it'll probably be a breath of fresh air. If you can get over the fact that even Real Myst Masterpiece Edition, the latest re-release of Myst 1, is still pretty dated and old. Okay, now let's play. So, this is the first one. And then it goes here and here. They're not locking in. And then here. And then it goes here, here. Oops. That was wrong. Hopefully we can just reset this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6, 7. I didn't hit all the buttons. I swear I didn't hit all the buttons. And it still worked. Well, that's crazy. I swear I didn't click on this. Wish I could go back and watch my own replay of my own footage. That was some insanity. Okay. So over here, we have a picture that says like 625. Can't take a picture of that. And over here, we have a desktop toy, which we really haven't had. And it's just like extremely slowly moving. Yeah, and that car starting sound, that seems so weird. So I don't know if this is a clock that we just wound, or if this is a picture it's supposed to be showing. It's not really spinning fast enough to be a picture. Over here we have another one of these. And over here we have a door, a vent showing hiding things. So let's open the door and see the big reveal. So this is the real world as it is. Each one of those is a different variation of the island with the little crabs. Why you would build this specifically on a waterfall, I don't know, but that was what the linking book showed. When every time we've looked at it, we've seen a giant waterfall. So it kind of teased that. Every time we walked to the side and exited out, the whole world would rotate. So this thing is giant. Like the entire size of those entire things. We are very, very far away from it. And unfortunately, there's just nothing here to scale that really makes sense. Maybe the waterfall is designed to just harness the power to rotate these fake worlds. Why somebody would create this? Who knows? Pride, silliness. It seems like a decent number of the people in Myst that had the ability to create ages seem to do it as mere experimentations and as just funny things. The truth now being revealed, I don't think there's anything else we can do here. So it's probably best to take the borrow stone. This might be a clock that might tell you something. So this might be useful later on. But yeah, there's kind of no buttons here you can push to rotate the world. And this probably feels like it is supposed to just be some gears that represent the orbital gears that you would have had to use, and the planetary gears that you would have had to use to cause something like this to spin. There's nothing fancy up here, so it probably is worth it before we take the borrow stone, though, is let's just, for the sake of not wasting more time, even though I, in all fairness, wasted probably 20 minutes talking about how I understand the backstory and how big of a mess it is. Let's just look at it. It says, when the door opens in a chamber, on the left is a button that opens all the windows. All should be clear now. You can see that the 4 hemispheres that house the 4 ages of Anone and the track you used to get here. Touch the shell cloth on the wall and link out using the borrow stone on the central table. You'll end up in the borrow cave below the one you visited in Ae'gura. Let's see. It says that's what to do, so I guess there's nothing more to do. So yeah, that's a nice reveal. We are now in a place that looks like it is where we returned the totems. So no longer does that building just jump into the lava in the cavern of Deny. So I guess technically we are in some kind of building that is floating above Deny. And there's just water, and I guess that means life getting added. Seems like as we do more things, we bring Deny back to life as much as possible. Alright. So what do you do from this point, though? Other than see stones that you can't click on. Just to make sure of that. Or see this code. Now remember, we played a little out of order according to the walkthrough. So there might be some weirdness around that. Because this was the second thing. Okay. So, it's saying just go back to Real 2. Feels like we should have gotten a modification for Real 2 by getting to the end of this way. The borrowed chamber is shaped like an hourglass. There's the number 625 written on the left with a sort of what does it say? You can visit the missing Agony Age if you use the Agony Annone linking book. Whatever you do, decide to do, link back to the observation room using the shell cloth. Go to the shelves and examine the parchment. So, let's just quickly look out here and see that nothing's changed. Okay. So, go here and see that was the waterfall as it was originally decided. There's weirdness about the ages though. Like they still seem to have time in them. They still seem like you can change them. It's not like I go to a world and then knock a rock over and then the rock magically resets itself to where it was that time. So, yeah. Not really sure what they mean like that. Like, here you can see, yeah, this does look like where we just were. So, catch 22, I guess, okay. And that says 625. Left is a sort of egg timer rotating around. Examine the timer unit. Flick the lever and it begins tick. I timed it just under 15 minutes. Okay. Great. That seems like that's probably all I can do right now. And that puts you in this weird position. Because I really liked that section. But honestly, playing it a second time, it kind of sucks. There's a lot of editing. There's a lot more payoff that it should have. There should be something more to do than just closing this vent and opening the vent. There should be an animation, a cutscene showing these worlds rotating, and when I press some button, or pull one of those levers. That would be the ideal. Is that there would be a lever that, like we had pulled before, that makes a giant grinding sound, and we'd see that. One, I guess, also assumes that the outer shells here rotate. The shells rotate independently, so it doesn't just try and turn all the water as it makes a 90-degree turn. It keeps north as north, and one assumes that they can't just change gravity inside of all of this. Although the level of what they can do and what they can't do is really questionable, for sure. So, at this point, I think I need to go back to Real 2. And I just need to follow the walkthrough almost word for word, because starting with the Watcher's Sanctuary, because I totally don't remember any of that. Let's just see if we could maybe get off the do something here. Like this whole this whole book really only relates to this book, kind of in the same way that these two books only relate to each other. This book is the big area, and I think this is the book we'll have to figure out what to do, because I don't think that there's anything in this area, which is called the Watcher's Sanctuary. That was the guy who could see the future. Apparently his visions led to the daughter of Atrus, Yeesha, perhaps learning quite a bit more than most people know, and that left them in a unique position where they could figure out more. Now, interestingly enough, there's some different symbols down here, almost as if it's saying you've done everything that needs to be done in these worlds and you haven't done everything that needs to be done in these worlds, although then that would be slightly questionable what I've forgotten to do here. I also watched a walkthrough, so I wasted a lot of time as far as just how quickly you could do the 2 deny expansion. You can do it in about 45 minutes, but it doesn't really explain. A real person actually playing the game would not do it in 45 minutes for sure. Alright, so blah 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 blah. Blah 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 blah. So it seems like we've probably done everything in the Watcher's Chamber, and so we need to go to the Arcana Canyon. And if I fast travel here, the thing was we really just didn't know what our goal was, so we kind of just stopped wandering around this area. Like, we made it to this point with a borrow stone and this point, which seems to be something different, and here we've got a button that activates nothing, and here we've got a lever that seems to activate nothing. One of the things that it said was that in Riven, well, that seems like just a big block of blackness. In Riven, there was a need to charge the father-in-law's books because they were corrupted. So that's why there was golden domes locking them in part, although it makes just as much sense that Gin, which I think was the name of the father-in-law, simply just didn't want anybody else to be able to use any of the linking books. And he was using the linking books to go to a different area, different age, and then kind of back the same way. So, slight question: if you can swim, Why can't you swim downward? Seems like I hit a wall. And when I hit the water, and I just won't go any further. The bigger question is, why aren't you willing to just swim across the surface of the brown water? It really ruins their own area here. Like, this is all part of the same DLC. The idea of throwing out the giving the ability to swim and then not having it work in the same thing really goes to show that there were two different teams. There had to have been two different teams working on this at the same time. So we need power over here. And I don't think we get anything right now by going to this Stone location or this location. Not yet. But this is kind of the end of the line. So we did miss some things, I think. However, I think we made it to the end, which again, it's definitely an experience I think a lot of people would do. We wanted lightning to hit this. How we would get lightning to hit that, I don't know. Alright. And if I want to go down here, I'd have to step on. I'd have to get the elevator to come back up, or I could just jump, I guess. I guess that works as well. And I could certainly run through this pathway. And yeah, the Ground Zero is still not doing anything for us. This big area would have worked really nicely if it had a Ground Zero equation, because then you could have totally had some more hints. Alright, so here's what I'm gonna do. Back to the walkthrough. Let's see, blah blah blah, blah blah blah. If you look to the left and follow tracks around, around to the right, you'll end up at a chasm. If you follow tracks the other way, you'll end up at the entrance of a factory of some sort. Go to the other set of tracks and follow them all the way to the other end of the canyon. You can walk a good part of the way on the top of the ridge, which is fun. On the other end of the canyon is blocked, but there's a train you can take. Climb up the ladder, go to the controls in the middle, push single hander. We did that. So then the next section, next paragraph is the factory. Blah blah blah, blah blah blah, blah blah blah. It really seems like all we have to do is get to places. There's a time location somewhere that we saw already for 496, but these numbers don't matter because, like, I'm not gonna take a picture of every single one of them. It's pointless. At the far end of the lander, pull the switch to turn on the lights at the part of the complex is similar to the part you arrived in. Climb the tower, go around the right to behind the wall. There's another time for 481. Follow the catwalk into the next building. Inside is a generator similar to that one in Yeesha's home, I guess is how that sentence is supposed to read. There are 4 exits to this room. The doorways to the left and right lead to water outfalls. The doorway opposite leads to a control room. The other exit leads back the way you came. Pull up the light switch to the right control room. Exit to the right of the control room exit, and the generator starts up. There's a shell cloth on the left corner of the control room and the exit. There are 4 massive tanks with rotating mixers. If you wander over to the tanks, you can see that they're partially filled with water, and there's an outlet pipe. I think that's where we are right now. So, there's also a ladder leading down with a seal hatch on top, and the catwalk leading to the far end of the complex is broken. Wish the DRC had gotten around to fixing things. The one thing I didn't get in the story is what happened to the DRC, but apparently Dr. Watson died or got trapped, and at that point they gave up on the Deny Recovery Council project. They just gave up and abandoned it, which I don't know why the DRC was trying to do any of that at all, and I don't know why a single death would make them lose their resolve so much, but apparently it did. If they were actual characters, people that talked to me or that I saw videos of, I'd be fine with videos. Myst is known for being a game that had just pre-recorded videos, really short, like 5-second videos. Getting back to that idea would have been fine. See, go to the exit to the other side of the generator room. I skipped some paragraphs on the far walls. Another label 452. If you jump into the overflow pipe near the windmill, you can see a realtor page on the other side of the debris ground. On the complex is a projected image of the whole complex. If you can see the mixing takes and the outlets, if you can shut down the mixers, you'll be able to get through the broken debris, blah 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 blah. There's no power to the far end complex, blah blah blah. Press the left button for the 4 mixing things, blah 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 blah. On the right is a switch, pull it to get some juice flowing. Step down into the room and note the 4 machines. On the far right. Okay. So, it's either in the room over there is the next thing we didn't do, or it's in this room. And these are supposed to be mixing machines. Do we have some way to do something with these? Because I can look here and I can see this, but we've got no power. Interesting. So I failed to power this? No, I just turned the power off. So what this would make me think is that I need this power on, probably. And I probably need to turn mixing machines on. Unless I'm supposed to have all of these go up with me. Let's see what this does. Yeah. So, in this polygon mess, we are supposed to somehow figure out how to open these sections. Some more stuff falls down. Okay. So we kind of know what we're supposed to do. Just not really certain how to do it. And I guess just all the stuff is either being pumped up or is in storage at the top of this building, as far as what the mixing machines are supposed to do. Okay, so I'm gonna have to go back a paragraph. Says, pick up the broken lump of concrete and shove it along to form a bridge so you can get back to the machine room. You do not pick up things in this game, so that's wrong. Next task is to get the 4 machines. Climb back up the ladder and take the elevator down. Return to the control room and turn on the 4 yellow segments. How did we get power on there? So we do have to go back to the other room. Walk to the room at the far end. This room is the purpose for the whole factory. I'm not going to tell you what it produces yet. Interesting. Okay. So it says they wanted me to get to this point and then ride the elevator down, which is, this is where that would have been originally. And then not gonna let me jump, apparently. We've got to go back to the control room and turn on the yellow segments. And yeah, I think the same old criticism can just be said here. You could easily wander around for hours, not getting the general idea. I guess maybe the fact that this pipe is deep, deep down implies that it is bringing in some other substance and that the water around it is just like a cooling equivalent. Just a coolant. I guess you could take that. And I guess that there were, the fact that there were giant wheels. Can I walk on this? Sure, for all the action sequences we've seen, it sure feels like that in particular should have been a trick. Alright. So we got a grind wheel. We got that powered. I don't want to hit any claws. I don't think you ever want to hit any claws that you haven't hit. So we want to get the yellow dots working, I think, on all of this. Maybe this bottom part doesn't really matter so much. And this little brown part probably is an indicator that something is broken. Alright. How do we activate this machine? Do we sit down? That's how you activate it. So I guess none of this content ever was actually in the online stuff, so I suppose it would make fairly sense. Okay. Red was spinning and drain. I don't think it needs to spin or mix. Yeah, the spinning really makes it feel like it's mixing. Okay. Red, red, and red. So I'm hoping those are the yellow segments they were talking about earlier. If not, these are the yellow segments. Ah. Yeah, that makes sense. So while we're at it, let's not have any of that change, because I don't really see a reason to have it change. For all I know, the red dots in those cases are the ladders. So I'm kind of suspecting that I couldn't have turned on the mixing machines before that point when I connected the connectors. So it's more akin to a data connection with power, like a USB plug when you pull the switch, than it is just a power switch. Because there really wouldn't be any reason why the machinery would stop me from turning on the equipment even if the equipment wasn't powered on. Up we go in an inconvenient little climbing cutscene. You definitely can see the only reason why you see the third person climbing cutscene instead of it just fading in and fading out. There was a game that was very poorly made, where you literally would fade in and fade out when you climbed a ladder because they didn't animate it. A much more recent game, actually. But since they animated it once, of course they're going to use it on every ladder transition. Okay. Now what? I've seen absolutely nothing that would tell me what to do here. There's a button here. Feels like we could probably play with some things. 1, 2, 3. Seems like it did nothing. Kind of feels like this would mean you get 5 strikes and you're out. But yeah, nothing's changing here. So yeah. And it's not just that one, right? These, I think, are all the same. Yeah. So there seems to be a mix ratio. This is either making ink or crystals, would be my guess, or just the extruded concrete rock in which they seem to build all of their buildings that the age themselves does not create when creating an age. Let's go back to the walkthrough then. See the 4 machines. Let's see. All the way in the back of the machine room, you should now see a red lamp on each machine. If you look through the view screen, you can see a set of 3 sliders and a button on the right. Note the symbols at the bottom of each slider. 4 machines seem to be connected to 4 mixing tanks, so I reckon they are mixing units. All you need to do is set the settings. Go to the room at the end of the tunnel. On the right is a central device is a linking book and a borrow stone. Use the borrow stone to link to a double chamber. You'll arrive in the upper level. There's yet another label on the wall and 3 drawings. Note the symbols of each of these. Seriously? Alright, well, let's just play the game legitimately then. So, the game wants you to have the experience that you won't be able to answer those puzzles without leaving, which I feel like a lot of players would really hate that. It wants you to go here. And I feel like I probably did link to this area at one point, and it was not like this. And it kind of feels like all of these, there might be a lot of these chambers, and these might be indicators of where the Borrow, the Lesser, live in these kind of earthen areas. So these symbols and the number of spokes are supposed to be the hint. And okay, you might get that. You might completely overlook it too. And that's a lot of little spokes to read, particularly if you're trying to read it off the screen. This is a nicely lit area. And I can't jump down, but I think what's down there, if I was to guess, is either the chamber we were already in, or let's see if we can see it any better this way. Well, maybe we can. Maybe we can get the camera to fly away from us. We'd have to be looking down if that was the case. Yeah. It's not great. It's not a great angle by any means. But if I walk around, the camera does seem to really try its best to avoid looking down there. Alright. The idea that those two chambers are an hourglass, and then things turn upside down depending on how you link to those areas, doesn't really work as well as I think they think it does, because there's that floating lantern in the middle of the area, and feels like there should be a floating lantern that's upside down in the other area. So while it may feel like an hourglass shape, I don't think it actually does rotate. Also, it would be doing the same concept twice if that area did flip upside down, and I'm not sure that would really solve anything. Alright, so here we go. It's saying we still don't have enough information. Which, do we really have enough information or not? It feels like we could put in the code to all of those if we counted the numbers and assumed that each one of these large ticks is a increment of 5 or 10. But the walkthrough says instead of doing that, go here. Let me double check if that's actually right, because maybe I'm skipping something. Yeah, it's saying go here. We've been here. Okay. So, I guess the idea is there's this device that it wants you to see, and I guess we have to kind of remember this device. And we are actually in the Denny, I guess. Yeah, we're in the cavern, we're in Denny. Alright. Good to know that. And then up here Now, there's no way that the to deny expansion would have used this area, because there was a small time there in which people could have owned to deny as an expansion and not owned the Path of the Shell. I don't believe there was ever a time when you could have owned the Path of the Shell and not gotten to deny, though. It just was included, which probably is a great admittance and proof that there was such a long amount of time between the release of the first expansion and the second expansion that nobody was going to throw a fit for them giving away the first expansion. Also, there was almost certainly no real interest in URU by the time the second expansion came out. There, I doubt, was much interest even by the time the first expansion came out. Let's go ahead and turn off that. So this is all lit up and sort of powered, and now we're really going to activate this last piece. And I think it might be the same mixing instructions for all of them, but let's see. We'll go a little late. Use the linking book on the lower level to return to the factory. Set the sliders in each one to 40, 30, 20. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. I think. Seems like he could be pretty off here. Assume we're starting at the left side. It just says 40, 30, 20. 5, 10, 25, 15, 20, 25, 30. I would imagine that there's probably some leeway here. One would hope. And then this one should be 20. I guess you could probably just play with this fairly well. And I guess if your resolution was a little bit lower, this might be a little bit easier. Okay. When you set the last slider, the button will turn yellow. Press it and a timer will start the countdown. You can wait around here for a while, wander off and look-see. After about 15 minutes, return to the room and return the room with the linking book. If there is a blue light, all should be okay. If not, you need to wait some more. Press the blue button and the machine opens up. Okay. So wait a minute here. Five, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. So either I've got that right and the button itself does nothing, or there's some other part of this that I've missed. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. I guess we'll just try all of them. And I wouldn't be surprised if there might be something more to all of this that you have to do. And there's no like keyboard controls here. So that becomes kind of a bit of a pain also. So either I'm just doing the same mistake multiple times, or because I haven't followed the walkthrough exactly right, there's some other part of the mixing machine that needs to be enabled. Which might very well be the case. That just lit up. Well, that lit up and that's locked in too. So this game is just glitched. I guess. Or maybe it just has a ton of poor coding in here. You can even hear the timers counting down on that one. I can't do anything. Like, yeah, there's no changing it. So either the game is a little glitched, or it's totally figured out it doesn't care. Seems like it doesn't particularly care about any of that stuff either. Maybe because this one has water in it, that means something different. Wow, did I just like run into the rail and it bounced? Why would the rail bounce? I don't buy that. You see, these are brightly lit. Okay. So, stuff is theoretically happening. I still have that black box, just missing texture completely. Or at least we think stuff is happening. Let me just double check the walkthrough and see how this goes. When the last one is set, the button will turn yellow. Press it and the timer will start the countdown. You can wait around here for a while or wander off for a look-see. After about 15 minutes, return to the room with the linking book. If the blue light is on, all should be okay. If not, you need to wait some more. Okay. Okay. And this would be the last thing that solves everything until we go and do the final part of this DLC. So, I suppose what we could do is I could stop this recording fairly quickly. I could go through this and try and delete all these screenshots if I wanted to. We've still seen absolutely no solution to any of this, like not even the beginning of a hint as far as what all of that is. We kind of know what this is. I really want to keep the memories though. I don't really want to delete anything. So, yeah. And here's a great point to make. Just look how bright and colorful and nice looking this is compared to where we are right now, where it's just dark and dingy and grainy. There's a little bit of machinery in this world as you initially see it, and then you find out that there is actually quite a lot of machinery in that world. But there's also a little bit of life where there's basically no life in any of the other worlds. There is one thing I want to go do, so we could go do that at the beginning of the next recording as we're waiting. Yeah. And here's a great point where the museum could have had press this button to hear the backstory of this character and all about this person. I kind of so here apparently was the DRC giving up, and I just skimmed over this and didn't even read this, although you can take it one way or the other. The last group is leaving at 5. You are on your own after that. Victor Lasman will be organizing any contact on the surface. Write him if you wish. So the DRC totally gave up at that point. Here's the solutions to the main game, which kind of goes to show how little screenshots you needed for the other DLC. And here's pictures for the main game, none of which really plays any real role at all. Here's that one puzzle I didn't even bother to do. Here's a nice little image that didn't really mean anything. Another image that meant nothing. Here's another image that meant nothing. Another image that meant nothing. I really wish this camera had a better flash on it. It should brighten up the whole area. If it had a flashlight, that would have been great. Also, what are these for? We've still not seen anything about that, but we've been seeing them. And yeah, here's kind of the same solution to the island, just in kind of a different order in the temple. Looking here, did we ever see a puzzle that coordinated around this? I don't think so, not as I can understand it. We saw the solution for that, we saw the solution for these, like, we saw the solution for that. We struggled with that one, and still very little in deny to deal with. I guess this stone may be telling the story of the lesser people. And look, there is even where they lived, the 4 poles and it falling into dirt, and then the 4 poles and it falling into a lower chamber. So we are fulfilling a prophecy. Wow. Ironically, the oldest image that I can either look at, I don't know if I've hit a max here, is probably the most important image in the entire game, and I just walked by that stone and did not pay any attention to it. Okay, well, this is where we're going to end this recording. I'll spend probably 5 minutes before I start the next recording, and then we'll either wait for the remaining 10 minutes to get to this point, or we'll wander around. There is one place that I don't think we quite visited. I don't know how we didn't visit it, but I want to go check that out. Otherwise, we've kind of seen everything, and it's really not worth it to take the scenic tour. I mean, we could go look around some places, I guess. There's probably 2 or 3 places we haven't seen. Anyways, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.